Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Maria Gonçalves podcast. I'm your host, Maria Gonçalves, and today I have a special guest, Ethony Dunn. So, welcome, Ethony.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
I love that you were here. I'm so excited. So, I'm going to let our listeners know a little bit about you. So, Ethony Dawn is an author. She is a professional tarot reader and teacher and a modern eclectic witch. I love that. She has been practicing her craft for over 25 years. She has created courses, tarot decks, oracle decks, witch guides, and YouTube videos. So you guys can definitely find her on YouTube, and I will have all of her links down below the video. And if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify, I'm going to have all the clickable links. So don't forget to give her a follow. So thank you. And Ethany is the headmistress of the Tarot Readers Academy, where she teaches the art of reading tarot. That sounds exciting.
Yes,
And
very busy person.
I love it. And then she's also involved with an online coven, the Awakened Soul Coven, where she shares her decades of experience working with modern magic. And she is originally from Australia, but currently living in Vancouver, BC,
Yes.
Canada. Another
Okay.
Canadian.
Yes. Yeah. So I just do a little bit of everything.
I love it. So I am curious, like, how did this all begin for you?
Yeah. So it begins very early on in my childhood. I was a very sensitive, empathic child. I could always see spirit from a very young age. And I had lots of visitations and reoccurring dreams. And thankfully, my parents didn't send me to go get an exorcism or whatever, anything like that. They took me to someone who helped me learn guided meditation and visualization techniques. And so that helped me with what I now know as an adult, a lot of really good training for meditation and things like that.
Yeah.
But I was always that child who was up a tree or in nature, talking to the nature folk and the fae. And so I got my first tarot deck when I was 15. I found modern Wicca around the same time. And so those two have been connected to my life pretty much since then. Um, and then I was always a part of the pagan community in Western Australia, post Western Australia, from the moment I pretty much left high school. And there's a quite a good social sort of community there for the pagan community. And so I did a lot of courses, learning as a student, and then started to do readings. I've read at fairs and in stores, and then with my professional career, my muggle career, as you can say, I was
Love
always
that.
reading cards on,
Muggle.
yeah, I was always reading cards on the weekend or, at lunchtimes. So it was never not a part of my life.
Yeah.
Um, and then when I moved to Canada permanently in 2013, 5 months later, I got pregnant with my son, which was a miracle. I mean, every child is a miracle, but I was told at 15 that I couldn't have children. So he was like a miracle.
Wow. Yeah.
I wanted to be able to be there to pick him up from school and drop him off and, volunteer and do all those things. So I thought, I'm going to see if I can do this thing full time and become a reader full time. And then I moved my business completely online, which I had to do because all of my clients were in Australia. So I
Yeah.
had to move everything online and pretty much start again. And then it went from there because I was teaching in Australia, tarot. I spent a long time putting my course into the Tarot Readers Academy, which I started in, I believe, like 2015 or 2014.
Yeah.
And just while my son was growing up, I worked when I could and So yeah, it really just like kind of went from there, and then it was the book happened, and everything sort of just started from there. And 10 years later, this year will be when my business was officially started, and now I'm doing all this stuff.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. That's like your 10-year anniversary. That
It is,
deserves a big
yeah.
party. So congratulations.
Thank
That
you.
is, I love it. It's amazing. So I am curious because for those that are interested, because you talked about your Tarot Academy, how exactly does that work? Is that like a course that they just take and then they're done? Is that a monthly membership? Just in case people are interested in that.
So I have a ton of different programs because it has been
Okay.
running for a really long time. So there are programs with myself. I have lots of free ones. I have a free Tarot 101 like course. And then I do live courses sometimes as well. So starting in April, I'll be doing my tarot and astrology class. And those are live sessions and recorded sessions, but there's also a full curriculum with hundreds of videos and workbooks and lectures. And so there's a little bit of everything for everybody. And I also
Yeah.
have other teachers who are in the industry who I know. They also teach through the academy as well. So I do have a faculty of teachers. So everything from the Thoth Tarot through to empowered reading to past life. I mean, we've got like a little bit of everything. So there's literally always something going on. So there are the foundation tarot classes and courses with me, but then there's a whole bunch of other fun stuff as well.
Oh, I love that. That sounds like so much fun. And I know because I've been on your website. So I was sharing this with you. I picked up this book.
Thank
I
you.
love this book. It is so down to earth. So what inspired you to write how do you pronounce it? Tarot
Grimoire.
Grimoire?
Tarot Grimoire. So
Yes.
I wrote that book because as I was saying, like when I found the tarot, I found the modern craft. And when you start a magical practice, especially in the Western magical traditions, you are encouraged to have a divination practice. And so I found a very traditional reconstructed Wiccan path, which is grandfathered from Margaret Adler and Atwood, sorry, and Gerald Gardner and Doreen Valiente and all those people in the UK. And so in that, you usually do a year and a day practice where you have to journal and do seasonal reflections of what's going on around you, and you do daily draws. You have a meditation practice and all those things. So I picked the tarot as my divination tool for the year. And so for me, tarot and magic are not two different things, that they are intrinsically related. Now, not everyone is going to read the tarot the same way or see the tarot the same way. Some people just see it as a way to look at their higher self or problem solve, or see it as a wonderful way to add value to it, maybe a counseling or something like that. But
Yes.
for me, it's a magical practice. So I have created literally thousands of tarot spreads throughout my life.
Ask you about that.
Yeah. And what I wanted to do was show that if you have a reading that is profound, you can take that reading and have that experience kind of go forward from there. Having a great reading is wonderful, but then what do you do? So for this, it was like if you use one of the tarot spreads, maybe the spell will help you get closer to that goal, or it'll remove an obstacle for you. And then, which I didn't necessarily do in this book for everyone, each tarot card can be used just on its own in a spell because they are so um, rich with symbols and knowledge, especially
Yeah.
with it being the reconstructed one based on like either the weight or the Thoth or Thoth, however you say it. But I wanted there to be something that you can move beyond the reading.
Yeah.
Excuse my dash hound, he's kicking my thing. You can move beyond the
Oh.
reading to empower your life beyond just having a tarot reading.
Oh, I love it. I like the way this book is broken down. It's
Thank you.
user friendly. It's not like spooky. Because when I ask people or share with people, hey, I'm gonna interview Ethony, and then when I was like, yeah, she does like witch stuff, and it's weird because you get like mixed reactions. I was like,
Yeah,
you okay? So people, I noticed within this book, you break that down. Like you go and ask those questions and answer those questions because there's a part in your book where you talk about the morals of spell crafting and hexing and curses and banishing.
I
That's it.
think, yeah.
So, can you speak to that? Because I really love the way you wrote that in the book.
It's really interesting because I still have friends from in my circle who I've known since I was like 11 or 12 who are still to this day afraid to get a reading, which is crazy to me.
Yeah,
But I can see where that comes from. They're like, I don't want to know, potentially know the future, right? Ignorance is bliss.
yeah,
And I've explained to them how I view future predictions work, but that's also still their choice, right? So,
yeah,
but with spellcraft and magic, it's exactly like any sort of tool. It's always going to come back to the heart of the user. It's always going to come back to the person driving the energy behind it. So, um, a car in the hands of somebody who wants to do something stupid and reckless is just as dangerous, right, as
yeah,
anything else. So, um, it really comes down to a lot of that, and it comes down to a lot of cultural beliefs as well. So there are cultures in the world where it is super normal and super casual when it comes to, paying, going and paying someone to place a hex on a rival or a neighbor. Uh, and that's just like normal. And then you come to
yeah,
the
it
Western
is.
world and you come to the Western world and it's like everyone's like, oh my gosh, so we have to look at that context as well. And then you look at, very patriarchal religions where prayer and asking for protection and asking for, righteousness, or like, winning something to do with a legal battle,
Yeah,
is one avenue for divine intervention, where you also have spell work is more of a active participant with the universe saying, I'm co-creating this future and allowing for taking the natural vibration, energy, and intention of what is around me to make the most out of my life. So if I wanted to go around and cause damage, would I do that magically? I mean, personally, no,
yeah,
because I mean, what's the point? It takes an awful lot of energy and time and commitment. And also, I'm just not that type of person because I believe what you put out, you get back.
yeah.
Um, but I also have to think, well, how is someone going to have true power over another person? It's the power of suggestion is also, a pretty big placebo. And the power of belief is extraordinarily um impactful when it comes to what people think can happen.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I've always been a really big my motto in life, instead of like having a golden rule, um, is don't be a see you next Tuesday. So if just don't be one. Like it's so easy not to be see you next Tuesday. My favorite word, but I don't want you to get by the YouTube gods. So like just don't be one. Like honestly, like just be a nice freaking person.
I
Don't
agree.
judge a person by the color of the skin, who they pray to, who they love, what they do. Judge them by the content of their character, to quote a very famous person. So it's really easy when you think, would I like that done to me? No. Well, then why would I do it to someone else?
Yeah,
And I believe that hurt people try and hurt people, and healed people try to heal people.
that's
And
true.
I try not to be I hope to not be a hurt person trying to hurt people, because it just perpetuates and grows.
It does. And you're so right. And thank you for that. Because I think that's an important conversation to have with people that are listening that want to go explore, but then they're scared because of their belief system. And like I have Portuguese background, like from Portugal and family from Brazil. And then when you talk about
Oh,
people from Brazil, I
Brazilian.
hear
Oh,
about
yeah.
like the voodoo, but my family's not into that. And like my Brazilian family, they're like, oh, this is so cool. But when I talk to other people, and when they hear the word Brazil, they're like, oh, they must like the pins. And it's like, what? What are people talking about? They don't do that. But there's this, I don't know if it's Hollywood, like people watch like these TVs and then they just imagine things that are not true, that are fear-based, that makes Hollywood movies lots and lots of money, but it doesn't mean that people as a culture are all doing that.
Yeah, and some people do. Like I know
Oh, true.
Avalon Cameron, who's a very well-known YouTuber as well. She is trained in Brazilian. Her family is from Brazil.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, and she's the Brazilian bruja. Like that is her folk magic path. But
Right.
again, you've got to look at it from this is her ancestry and her lineage, and
Yeah.
she's learnt underneath her family tutelage, right? That is her magic. But it doesn't mean everybody from Brazil is going to be doing that. I mean,
Mm.
my father is English, and when we did the 23andMe, I'm extraordinarily Celtic, like the most
Yeah.
Irish Celtic, friggin' white potato eating person ever. So and my family is a lot from the Maritimes, like
Yeah.
Newfoundland and things like that in Canada, and from Ireland. So it's Celtic magic. So,
Right.
but it doesn't mean that every one of my people are Druids or Celtic people. Like, so
Yeah.
there's also that too. We're so multicultural, and the world is so big, and there's so many different faiths and paths
Yeah.
that kind of brandishing all of one group of people with something. But I mean, yeah, I mean, look at I love horror movies. I love horror movies. Like I went and saw the Tarot movie that came out last year because why not? And it was, I thought it could have been done much better. I was like, well, that was a bit of, but it was fun. Like,
Yeah.
but you just sort of realize that yes, anything with Hollywood or anything that is reported anywhere, whether it's Hollywood or the news or whatever, you have to remember there's always a bias and there's always a reason why that story is being told the way it is. So
Yeah.
having that critical thinking is really important when it comes to discernment. And I think with that, and just like trusting the heart of people that and
Yeah.
yourself. Like if you open a book and something doesn't feel right, well then just don't do it. Don't do it. You have free will.
You do. And what I really like about your book, I'm going to show it again, and I will have the link for you guys to go find this book because it's on her website too, is you talk about all that stuff in here about following your heart, doing what feels right, getting rid of that fear. And I find it's a very, I don't know if the word is inclusive, but it opens your mind to different possibilities. Even you talk about like the oldest spell. Is that, because I can't remember, is that happy birthday? The oldest spell?
I mean, I think it's like one of the most common and enduring mundane spells that we see that is shared by pretty much every culture around the world to this
Yeah,
day. When we make a wish and we blow out the candle, when
yeah,
we sing happy birthdays. So when you sing happy birthday or any of the birthday songs, you're singing upon someone a blessing.
yeah,
You're saying, and then again, my dash hound is deciding to be a royal pain. So then you're singing upon them a blessing and
yeah,
to celebration. Then they make a wish and blow out the candle. That's basic candle magic. Another one is the first star you see at night, which is often the planet Venus. So when you see that star and you make a wish, that is another one. So there's a lot of magic in the mundane that we maybe not necessarily see. So
I love
um,
that.
there's a lot, but it's all that intention. It's all the intention, the power, the thought that goes into it, and the follow through afterwards. So, yeah, it's not as grim, I guess, or like as
Yeah,
fantasized as it can be in certain aspects. But there are people absolutely who will lean into that air of mystery and into all of the cloak and the shadow and all that kind of cool stuff. And it's not to
yeah,
say that I don't do shadow work or I haven't worked on the stuff that needs to be integrated. But it's really just about learning how to harness the magical natural world within and without you to, empower your reality.
Yeah. I love that. I love how you said that. I do want to show within the book so people get an idea of what the book looks like because you have the tarot cards in here, which I love. And then you have like different spells that go with the tarot card. I'm gonna say one of my favorite. Star. So you have like
Yeah.
the star card, and then you have like spells where people get things or drink things, but it's so down to earth. And then I start thinking about like because I'm from Portugal, so back in the village, you would have your healer. It's like we're gonna get this plant medicine and put this plant medicine, these different plants together and help somebody heal, which is so normal in so many cultures. And we just kind of, I feel like over time, we just kind of forget our roots and where we came from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And understanding like everything, it's going to evolve. Magic evolves as we evolve, and we our understanding of the way the world works. Again, my
That's okay. That's
oh,
okay.
go on,
So for those
sweet
of
boy.
you that want to check out her book, definitely go get it. I love it. She's got the breakdown of each of the cards, and then you have a different spread for each of the cards.
Yeah, sorry, but I have
That's okay.
my dash hound is very needy. If
Does he
anyone
want
ever,
to be, does he want to be on screen? My little
I've
Romeo is on screen
oh,
all the time.
he unfortunately he would want to climb on the table and start making an absolute mess. So I banished him from the room, but he is pretty needy. So yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. That's
But
okay.
yeah, so there is a spread and a spell for each tarot card, yes. And I talk a little bit about the key energies of the tarot card as well. Just if you don't have a lot of tarot books, so you've got an understanding of the energy of the card, and I talk a little bit about it beforehand as well. So there's a little bit of everything in there.
I really like it. And for those that are listening and you're thinking of, oh, I need a tarot collection, because I know there's so many tarot books, I will say this is one of my favorites because you break it down. It's in bite-sized pieces and it's easy to digest. It's easy to understand. And I love that. And two, it's super empowering your book. It really
Mhm.
is.
I'm all about empowerment, right? And I mean, I think that's so important now more than ever to realize that um, when the world can seem so big and the problems so huge, and how do we navigate that? And it's also overwhelming.
Yeah.
Really about bringing it back to the self and what we do and how we move through the world, how we choose to spend our resources, whether that's time, knowledge, money, physical things, and loving and protecting and being a part of our communities. So
Yeah.
it's it's a we're never truly unempowered. I think there's just a lot of people who want us to believe that we are.
Okay, then. But yeah, you're right. We need to be empowered. And your books are empowering. And then I wanted to talk about like I got this deck, the Awakened Soul, but you have so many decks. You have
Yeah.
tarot and oracle. How does that process happen for you? Because I was sharing with you, I'm creating my own tarot deck. I'm in the beginning, and I have a whole new respect for people that do this. And I don't even know how you people create multiple decks. I'm like on card three, and I'm like, wow. So, how do you
It's so
get
hard.
inspired to do a deck?
It's different for everyone. Every one of them has its own vibe. It has its own like purpose. Um, and creating decks is a whole different like I guess like even arm of the business. Like
Yeah.
so I think one of the things about myself is I was very lucky to go and work in some of the hardest industries in the world. I worked in the oil and gas industry for a long time in Australia. So that taught me a lot of discipline, and it taught me a lot about having good things like contracts and I worked in HR. So that was always
Yeah.
very interesting. Um, So I also have raging ADHD, which I wasn't diagnosed until oof, maybe a year and a half ago. So, and I've always been very creative. So I'm able to kind of do a lot of different things at once, sometimes to my detriment because I just go until I stop, which is not always great, always learning some balance. But everyone has its own thing. So when I did the Awakened Soul Oracle, I wanted to create something that over my, decades at that point, years of reading cards, there were always like underlying messages that were coming up time and time and time again. And so I wanted to create something that helped, put those into simple or like cards so that people could really work on some of those overarching things and through energies. And then I mapped out what I wanted them to be, just and in a rough like list and ideas and things like that. And then I found Danielle, who is an Indigenous artist from Australia, on Instagram actually. And then, we started to work together. Um, and we are very lucky that we live in an age of Kickstarter and Indiegogo and all that kind of stuff and back a kit where we can get funding because now anyone can create a deck and not have to worry about being rejected by publishers or go through that
Yeah.
necessarily. So, so that was the idea behind that one. And then every other deck I've created has had its own intention and place and voice and reason for being.
Yeah.
And I also just love creating. I find the beginning part of it, I'm really excited. And then, you get three-quarters of the way through a project and all I want to do is cry and throw my computer out the window. But then you get to the end and you're able to hold something in your hands and you're like, yay! And then you're like, okay, another one, so it's crazy.
Oh my goodness. Like you have a lot. I'm just gonna show people like this one's got a little booklet. They all come with booklets, right?
Yeah, they all come with guidebooks, yes.
And then I will say the quality is good. I love the little flip thing here. And Bumblebee. So what's the significance of Bumblebee?
That's pretty much on everything. So
Yes, I noticed that.
yeah, so the bumblebee is my solar animal, and the owl is my lunar animal. So that was a part of an aspect of my training, and an aspect of my priestesshood.
Yeah.
I have them tattooed on my forearms. So I have the owl on my left-handed, and then the bee on my right. So the bee is on everything because the bee is also a symbol of community, hard work, the sweetness that comes with hard work, connectivity, and abundance, right? Without the bee, the honeybee especially, we wouldn't have they're the pollinators, we need them. So yeah, the
Oh,
bees everywhere.
wow. So in this deck, I don't know which card it was, but you're in here, aren't you? Is
I
there
don't
a
think
picture of you? No, I thought
no.
you. I was so well. Let me just show uh
Actually.
our viewers. I thought there was a picture of you in there. Okay, I will say this. This is beautiful because you have that beautiful quote there where who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes, Carl Jung. So I love this deck. I love the quality. I love the feel. And again, there's the bumblebees. I thought that was a card. I was like, oh, that looks like her.
That might have been an unintentional an unintentional situation.
So is it all right if we go through the cards for our
Oh
viewers?
yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay, and just like feel free to give any background on some of the cards, how they inspired you.
Yeah, I love that card action. I love archery. I'm a huge, huge archery person. And the big
Can you
thing
do
about,
it?
oh yeah.
Oh, wow. Where did you
Oh
learn
yeah.
how to
I
do
used to
that?
I used to shoot all the time in Australia. I used to go with one of my best friends and we would go shoot at an educational range. And then There's one here that I actually just took my son. And so
Oh,
yeah, I love archery.
how young can you be to start?
It depends on the school, and I think like 8 years old is pretty about this. But I mean, I know people here who they live in like the farmland or the Okanagan Valley.
Yeah.
That's actually my sister-in-law.
This
Um,
one?
yeah, and their kids have been, hunting for food since they could hold a bow. So it really
Amazing.
depends on, it depends on your where you are in the world. And they hunt for food. They don't hunt for pleasure. They hunt
Yeah.
for eat. So
I think that's amazing. I
yeah.
love the colors of the deck. Like
That's
it
like
says,
very, very Diwali, very the color festivals in India, where this sort of vibe of having fun and brightness and friendship, it really came from that one.
that is
Yeah.
beautiful. We used to have these here where people just throw it, it was like it was a summer festival. You wore white
Yeah,
and
and the powders, the color powders.
yes, and you come out in different colors, which is absolutely beautiful.
So
There we go.
one of my favorite cards. So this is sorry, the gratitude. So this was
Is it
uh,
this card?
the one,
Or
the next one.
this one.
Yeah, so I'm a huge proponent for gratitude. I often call myself like Grateful Heart Bear because I'm a child of the 80s and I love the Care Bears. So I'm a big thing of like sitting in as much gratitude practice as possible. And so I really love that card.
I love the feathers. Like it's so colorful.
And
It's
a
just
lot of
beautiful.
people see feathers in mediumship as a way of ancestors or people on the other side communicating, which is the reason why I had feathers
Yeah.
in that card.
Would you call yourself a medium then?
I am.
Definitely.
I am a
Yes.
medium, yeah. But I also wanted to say for people who are maybe new or listening to this, you do not have to be a medium to do tarot. You don't have to be psychic to read the cards. And you do not ever have to have that. You can have a choice, right? So for myself, my mediumship, I made the choice to do that with the cards
Yeah.
because I got sick and freaking tired of being woken up in the middle of the night or just have stuff come to me. Now it's a little bit different. Now we've got a bit of a better relationship, and there are people on the other side who have got permission any time or place to come and drop in and say hello. Um, or to give me messages, right? Because those people are people that are very well known to me. But I'm sure you probably have stories too about, especially when I was younger, right?
Yeah.
I hadn't honed my skills. So I made that choice. You don't have to be psychic or have any of that. And not every psychic tarot reader is also going to be a medium. Mediumship is a specific school it's a skill, right?
Yeah.
That you have. So this is very much inspired by one of my friends, Benabel Wen, who
Yeah.
is a author and reader, and I just love her to pieces. So there's some of my friends in the deck, but yeah,
I love that. That's why we're showing the deck to hear the stories behind the pictures because
yeah.
I think that's super
And I
important.
love this card. I love this card because especially women, we are taught to hate our bodies and to hate each other and to have this, especially women, we are so weaponized against each other. Like we see each other as competition, um, professionally, in love, like everything. It's just like it's such a manipulation, And when we judge each other, because that's card is judgment, when we judge each other, we chain ourselves to those judgments, or when we judge ourselves, we chain ourselves to those judgments. And then the issue that becomes, it becomes like this the crystals being in the cave and on that moth, the crystallized moth, it becomes something so difficult to break free from. But if we recognized that we are being conditioned to judge, and there's nothing wrong with judging when it is done intentionally with a purpose for the goal of discernment or it's your
Yeah.
job, like if you're a judge or whatever. But if you're running around just being a judgmental ass, then there is something often behind that. And so I wanted these two females to be looking at each other with not a loving look in their eyes and in, in like underwear or bathing suits, whatever you may see it, because it's like we judge ourselves, we judge each other, we are chained by them. And if we can just recognize that what we're doing is futile,
Yeah.
then we can start to unchain ourselves.
Wow. That I love that. And that is so true. I honestly I didn't even know that's what that meant. But when I looked at this card, it reminded me of the devil card in tarot,
Yes.
the stories we tell ourselves to stay stuck. And I
Yes.
just thought like, wow.
Yep.
But it is, we do a lot of judgment. And it's like, now I notice if I get triggered, I go within and I'm like, why is that triggering me? Like, because it's deeper, it's shadow work stuff I have to deal with because I realize it right away. And it's like, wait, what's happening here? What do I need to heal within myself? Because,
It's
uh,
unconditioning too, right? A lot of us
yeah,
grew up with very judgmental parents. And some of that is cultural for sure. They're very critical culturally, but
yeah,
also looking at like where a lot of like my dad is a baby boomer. And so he's got a completely different set of like contexts, right? And then so his father, who fought in World War I,
yeah,
like, and my grandmother who was pregnant with my uncle watching bombs drop in London with a pregnant belly,
yeah,
like we have got such a different perspective, right? We need to realize that that doesn't have to keep trickling down. We can honor it and understand it,
yeah,
but we don't have to take our parents' judgments or our grandparents' judgments or even ourselves, that we can actually break the chain and break the cycle and go, oh, is this really my voice, or is this really the voice of my mother, father, grandfather, or whatever?
yeah.
And go, that's you, that was your reality, and I understand it, but it doesn't have to be mine.
I find too, like even now, because we're like January, February, beginning of the year, it's like get skinny, you're too chubby, get in the social media and the advertisement. So the judgment's always around us. So going within,
Oh,
like, why am
it's
I getting triggered? I need to love
so
myself.
exhausting.
Self-love. Yes.
Honestly, I just came to a point where I'm like, I'd rather just be fat and happy. Like, honestly, I don't care anymore. Like, my
Yeah.
mother, I can go through all of my photos from my childhood, and we didn't travel a lot because we had no money growing up because my parents were immigrants. So but I have got very few photos with my mother.
Yeah.
And I don't have many photos of her. And I was like, man, I don't want that to be my son's reality. I don't want to look back and go, oh, I wish I had more photos from when we went to Rome or whatever it may be. But because I felt hot and sweaty that day and I'm not a size two, I didn't take photos. Like that's not going to be me. I'd rather eat the freaking cake, eat the pasta, enjoy my life, enjoy my roles, and and just be happy. Like screw it. Like, I mean, if someone's going to look at a photo of me or me with no
Yeah.
makeup right now and judge me, who cares? Who
Yeah.
cares?
I'm eating the cake with you. I'm very big believer in dessert first, vegetables
I
second.
look at a menu when I go to a restaurant, and I look at the dessert first to decide what I'm going to eat,
I
because
do
I
the
want to
same
make sure.
thing.
There's someone at
Life's
the
too
airport who
short.
does the same thing too, like a couple of weeks ago. So we're not alone. Dessert first, army for life, hashtag dessert first. So yeah, I just be freaking happy. Like honestly, who cares?
Enjoy food, enjoy life, savor every moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then we
Especially
have
if
this
you're
little boy.
privileged. Yeah, I love that one. It's like the imagination and the knowledge going further and expanding his horizon and his understanding. And the great thing about knowledge is the more you know, the more you want to know,
Yeah,
you know. So yeah,
love that.
yeah, the labyrinth. Many pagan paths, many traditions have labyrinth walking, and I've walked quite a few of them, and they are
Um,
very powerful tools for transformation.
do you have a labyrinth where you live? I found one around here.
Not, I think there's a lot on the island, like Vancouver
Yeah.
Island area, but not. that I've seen here, but the labyrinths I've walked have all been in Australia.
Oh,
Um,
wow. And then the artwork is beautiful. I love
yeah, Danielle did such a great job.
like going within.
She's a very talented girl, woman, I should say. Yeah. So everything was like really, it was a really fun project, but I'm still really proud of that deck. It being one of
I
my
love this deck. And the quality, I like it because I've had some decks that I purchased, and after I shuffle it a second time, they start to peel apart. And then I'm kind of like, oh, but this deck, it's
yeah.
sturdy.
I do have to say, from a perspective of someone who's made every mistake in the book for creating, that sometimes it's an issue that has happened during the printing process, and oftentimes there is very little that we can do as the end user. But then I also go, I love to lean in sometimes with that worn, quality, and I get that it can be really frustrating when you've bought something and it was a bit more expensive, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's like shit happens. Oh, I love this card too. So sovereignty. So she's wearing red for power and life. And so these are the three virgin goddesses in the Greek pantheon. Athena is my matron goddess. And what that I wanted to put those three there as a reminder that it's not about being a virgin, it's about sovereignty. It's about owning your power and never letting anybody else have power over you or make your own decisions. And so I wanted to have those three goddesses there as a reminder.
Oh, I love that. That is
Yeah.
beautiful. That is powerful.
Yeah, I wanted to be a marine biologist, so there's, there's
Did you?
lots of the ocean in my stuff.
I
Yeah,
love the ocean.
me too.
Very
We
cool.
I just got back from Mexico a couple of weeks ago actually, and one of my favorite things I did there was swimming, snorkeling in a bay, and I could stay there all day. And the other thing was swimming in the cenotes, and I
Yeah.
got to see turtles, and like it was just magical. It was like, leave me here.
And this is the last card. So what
And
inspired
yeah.
you for this one?
So owls, and
Yeah.
then there's a very famous Ukrainian photographer, and she does photography with her grandmother in traditional Ukrainian dress. And so this was inspired by her, but I wanted her to be blind because it's a reminder that wisdom isn't always gained through our senses.
Oh, wow. I find your decks are so inclusive. Like
Yes.
they're so beautiful. And maybe those that are listening or watching this, maybe you see yourself in the deck. Because I know I do.
I have always been very intentional with inclusivity. It comes from growing up in a very multicultural country. And I growing up in Perth, and I went to school in Fremantle. And so we had people from all over the world. My family is very multicultural as well. It was just like that was normal for me. I didn't realize like how it might not be normal for everybody else, but it was
Yeah.
very normal for me growing up. And when I did that deck, I didn't realize that there wasn't a huge amount of diversity in in other decks, or especially mass produced. And I actually had people messaging me on Instagram and Kickstarter and all that sort of stuff saying, I finally see myself in a card, and it brought me to tears. And I was like, damn, like I didn't even like
Yeah.
think, because my reality was, well, I don't look around and just see all one type of person or one
Yeah.
culture. So that was just, but it was like really cool that it was like, oh, that's awesome.
I love this. So I wanted to ask you, for people that are brand new to this world and they want to get into this, but they don't know where to start because there's a lot out there and there's a lot of offers. So what would you recommend for people like step one so they don't get overwhelmed with the process?
So for tarot or oracle, getting into finding sort of somewhere to start, that's a really good question. So there's never really a wrong way of going about it. One of the wonderful things about the internet is that you can really find someone who's got a good digital footprint if you're going to be looking to learn from somebody.
Mhm.
So YouTube is huge, especially in like the oracle and tarot space. And try some free stuff. Like, I mean, for I've got tons of free courses. I've got oracle cards for beginners. I've got tarot for beginners. I've got just like I've got so many freebies on my website. So you can try all that. You can watch some videos of mine and read some blog posts and kind of get a feel of how I teach and my ethos. But you can also do that for other people as well. But I always definitely say like just listen to your intuition when it comes to your teachers, and always look for a teacher. Like if any teacher is saying like my way is the one true right way, run the other way, or
I
if someone is
agree.
if someone is promising you like you can't do this, you can't do that. I mean, like honestly, use your common sense. Like if it's you can't do something that's like illegal or dangerous, and of course, but like saying, oh, if you don't do this specific thing with your tarot practice or your oracle card practice or whatever it may be, then you're doing it wrong. Then
Yeah.
that's more about them than it is about you. So I mean, I even say to my students, I mean, I had a tarot study group live last night with tarot students of mine, and I was like, I never stop learning. I go to conferences, I have people that have mentored me. I'm always learning. So having someone who's an open teacher is really, really good. But yeah, we're very blessed that there's a lot out there, but just
Yeah.
yeah, just do a little bit of digging and see if you can work with someone on a maybe a free capacity or um, something like that. And then if you're looking to pick a deck, if you're like, oh, cool, now I want to go out and purchase a deck, there's just a few things that I would say to look out for. Number one, please, 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 for the love of all things sacred, the sacred flying platypus in the sky, whatever gods you believe or don't believe in, please don't buy pirated stuff off of places like Shein, Temu, Wish, AliExpress, because it is killing us as authors and creators. We make a lot less than you think we do, and it's capping us. It's like whack-a-mole. So please buy from, reputable people because pirated decks mean that, like, for example, I pay every single one of my artists and I pay them for every deck that's sold too. So they're not going to get any royalties for their work either if it's pirated. So that's my first one. And secondly, just work with a deck that you feel drawn to, that sparks something in your intuition and in yourself, and go from there. Because if so I might say, here's a deck, and you're like, this is the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. You're not going to want to work with that. Go with something that you want to pick up. You want to spend time looking at the cards. You want to read about the card meanings. You want to work with. It feels yummy in your hands. So do that. And a lot of good stores often have like sample decks to
Yeah.
go, and it's a great excuse to go to your local metaphysical store or bookstore and see if they've got samples. But if not, look up some images on the internet. But start there. So that would be my suggestion.
I like that. And I've heard this, so I'm just wondering what your thoughts are because I thought it was weird when I heard this. Someone had told me because they truly believe this to be true that you cannot learn tarot. Yeah, you can't buy your first deck. Have you heard that? I was like, no, go buy it,
I
but
wish
I'm
that
not
would
allowed.
die a painful death. That is one of the most enduring misconceptions, and it's such crap. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know where it came from.
Okay,
May
so you've heard it.
Oh my God, it's one of the things I hear all the time, still to this day, and I have been trying to squash it since like, it's an old wives' tale. It's an old tale. I don't know where it originates from, but no, that is phooey.
Yeah.
Um, I have a feeling like an idea that it might come from certain folk magics where things have to be handed down from generation to
Yeah.
generation. But no, that's
Yeah.
complete BS. I buy so many decks, it's ridiculous. As a matter of fact, people should probably take away my credit card. So like, and they work fine. So you want to buy something that works for you that you really, really like. You do not have to be gifted a deck. That is a bunch of crap. So I
Agreed.
a lot of people who like really hold to that. I'm like, I would love to like go like, well, where did you hear that? Like so because I not for the people who've heard it and are questioning it, but heard it and believe it. I'm like, well, where did you hear that? Like, who told you that?
Yeah.
So because I think it's yeah, phooey.
So now I am curious, how many decks do you own? A lot.
Hundreds. I think the
Oh.
last time I took a bit of a look was probably around the 400 mark.
Oh, I'm feeling a little jealous. I need to catch up. I think I'm at around 100. And then
Good.
and then I do start to give them away because I feel like, oh, because I'll have friends and be like, I really like that. I'm like, well, I played with it like two, three times. Here you go.
I do
Or
that
I've
too.
noticed I've been gifted decks because some decks you can't get in Canada. I can't even purchase them in Canada. So I have friends in the UK or the US that will buy the decks and mail them to me. And then, or sometimes I'll just message them, be like, I have zero access to this deck here. Please buy it for me. I'll send you money. Do you have decks like that that you're trying
Oh
to get
yeah.
access to? And you're like, I
Oh
can't
yeah.
even get it in this country.
Yeah, so I often will so there are decks that like there's a couple of like categories for me.
Yeah,
There's collector decks where it's like this is a deck that was created by the artist. It's not one that I'd probably bring out to use um very often, if at all. But I love the art. You know, I love the
yeah,
art. I want to support the artist. I want to support the creator. And sometimes I'll just sit down with a cup of tea and like flip through my decks because I adore them.
yeah,
Then I have my You'll Pry Them From My Cold Dead Hands decks, which are decks that have been with me for a really long time. So, for example, I've always got like, I have a number of those babies. Like one of them um, is my Orosoma Tarot, which I'm an Orosoma
oh,
Tarot
beautiful.
reader and consultant. So I mean, like these, the Druidcraft Tarot, and there are some like the Spiral Tarot, which I use for, or the Morgan Grew, which I use for a really long time, and they're wrapped in silk and they're like retired, but I do bring them out.
Yeah,
And there's decks that I will like never not have on my desk. Then there are like I usually seasonally change things out. Like soon I'm going to be bringing my spring decks out. And that's just to help me again because magic and tarot have always been so aligned
yeah,
like, with imagery and also just like let me use different decks. And then I do have some decks that like I use for a little bit of time and I give them to my coven mates or my friends, or I go to flea markets and sell them secondhand for not a nominal price or whatever it is. So they're always coming and going, but if there's a deck that like I instantly have a connection with, it won't go anywhere. So yeah,
wow.
it tends to float. And indie decks, which I have a ton of them, rarely leave my hands because they are obviously pretty precious.
Oh, wow. Okay, now I have a goal, 400. Keep buying more.
I can definitely help you reach that goal. I'm terrible. I'm a terrible, terrible influence. Like, yeah. So, and I've got three new decks coming out this year. I was just shuffling. So this is one of them, which is the my redesign of my money magic manifestation cards. I'm just working on the guidebook and workbook, which is become a huge thing. I was like, I'm going to make it this, and it's becoming like huge, so it's taking longer, but I know it's going to be great. And it's designed to help people work through their money baggage because I had to
Yeah,
heal a lot of my money baggage. So that's coming out this year. And then I have the mini version of this one, and then I have a tarot deck coming out this year. and another book. So like I'm a busy girl.
I know I saw that the money one because I was trying to order it and then you can't order it just
Not
yet,
yet,
right?
not yet.
So
I want to have them in production. So
yeah,
I'm working on the finals. This is a little mini pocket deck because it used to look like this. I'll show you. It's right here. I'm working on. I don't want them to be. This is like what they used to look like.
yeah,
Upgraded them. Um, I don't want people to be ordering them or pre-ordering them until I know that the button has been pressed on production because production can sometimes have you can stall out.
yeah.
Um, and then this was my newest one, which is the Cosmic Wisdom. If you don't have this, I'll have to send you a copy. So I'll send you some
That
goodies.
is gorgeous.
Yeah, James, who is the artist, he was an absolute pleasure to work with. I adore him. We're working on, because I'm nearly out of the first edition, we're working on a second edition, and I want to do a little pocket edition. And the guidebook took me forever because
Yeah.
it's a simple.
Oh, I
So
love
every
that.
symbol is
So
sectioned out.
yeah.
So it took me
So what
forever.
is the
Whole
difference? I love it. What is the difference between a first edition and a second edition for those that are listening?
Yeah, so a first edition would be the first print and the first run. So the first edition is basically for any book where it was like the first time it went to print.
Yeah.
And you can have a first edition and a second print, but it means that this was like the first approved manuscript or creation. Second edition usually has changes. So there are a couple of cards like in the deck that we would make some little changes. We would change a couple of things in the artwork, or we would,
Yeah.
you know, there's definitely a few things that I would like to kind of zhuzh a little bit. So the
Yeah.
second edition will have changes in, usually it has changes in the artwork for a deck. Um,
Wow.
Whereas like sometimes with books, they'll have like a revised edition. Like you can see that in Rachel Pollack's like 78 Degrees of
Yeah.
Wisdom. She writes a little bit beforehand in the newer ones. So yeah, but we're going to change a few little things in the artwork. But I'm exceedingly proud of this deck and with everything that we did, James and I. So um,
It's
yeah,
gorgeous.
I have a few left, but soon it will be the first edition will be out of print. So
All right. So
yeah.
I need to order my first edition before
Oh,
dinner.
I'm gonna send you one. Don't you worry. We can chat after. But
Oh my
yes,
God, it's gorgeous. Thank you. So I want to say, oh, before we close, um, what should people be looking out for you? What are you up to? So do you have upcoming courses?
yeah. So I've got I do a bunch of free stuff, mostly because I realize that not everyone has the ability to do paid offers. So you can head to ethony.com, and if you look at free resources, there's a ton of stuff. But
Yeah,
I've got two free classes coming up in March. The dates are, hang on, the dates are right here. The first one is on the 16th of March at 9 a.m. PT. So that's a Sunday, and I put that on a Sunday so that people in like the UK and things like that can join. And then the second one is on the 31st of March at 5 p.m. PT. And these are going to be about tarot and astrology and how to use your natal chart. So I'm going to get everyone to bring their birth chart. And we're going to be diving into that. And then I'm going to be doing my tarot and astrology full classes after that. So there's that that's coming up live. And then I have my coven, which is always open for registration, where we have monthly content every month. We do full moon rituals together, we do workshops together. And it's a lovely community that's been going since 2016. We have a really tight, beautiful, wonderful community of eclectic pagans from all around the world who like I mean everywhere. We've got Romani, we've got, you know, like I mean just like every walk and creed is welcome in the space. So yeah, I've always got some stuff going on because I'm a busy little thing.
I I love it. I love it. I can't wait to share this with everybody. So, for those of you who are watching, don't forget to give Ethany a follow. Go check out her website. I'm going to have all the clickable links. Go purchase some of her tarot decks. Check out her books, amazing books. And I really enjoyed today's interview, and I hope everybody listening really enjoyed it too. So, thank you so much, Kate. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.